This is White Plains Week, the weekly news roundup. With your moderator, John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And Peter Katz, noted broadcaster and journalist. White Plains Week. What's happened? Who are the newsmakers? And what's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains and Westchester, and all you vacationers out there. We're watching you in traffic on our national cam. John Bailey here with you on the White Plains Week City News Roundup show, and this is the mid-year show. We're taping on July the 1st, and Jim Benerofe has the headlines for us.
Now, the stories for this week. At the halfway point of 2016. Terror at Istanbul airport suggests spectators face the dangers of an untamed frontier on vacations, travel, and public events. Presidential campaigns build momentum and consensus going into conventions. Common Counsel hears preliminary plans for development of former Good Counsel property. City settles Teamster contract for 3 years, raises pay 2%, lowers starting salaries for new employees. City will install smart meters in portions of the downtown. Cable TV station location in the library unclear in $2.4 million library project. City will experiment with a one-step repaving technique that recycles asphalt. White Plains awaits June sales tax figures to see whether up to $1.5 million has to be cut from budget. Harrison considers 421 apartments for Corporate Park Drive on White Plains border. What's ahead for this month? School district rehires Tim Connors as interim superintendent on a per-day basis for July, August pinch hitting for the ill Dr. Paul Freed. Pat Summitt, who gave women's college basketball celebrity, dies of early onset Alzheimer's disease.
Thank you, Jim. And we go right away to the White Plains Week Rollo Newsreel March of Time. And we're taping on July the 1st. And we do this slide again, showing the reading of the Declaration of Independence 2 weeks ago in White Plains, because we forgot to identify that the young lady on the right is Karen Pasquale, who works in the mayor's office as his chief liaison. And she did a great job on that ceremony. I just wanted to mention it was really professional. And I think you can see that on cable. And of course, we await the fireworks because they were postponed when they were supposed to.
We're talking about the 4th of July fireworks, which were scheduled in White Plains at the high school for Friday, July 1st. There's a forecast for thunderstorms moving in just about fireworks time. So the city decided yesterday, Thursday, to postpone the fireworks until Wednesday of this coming week, which would be July 6th.
Yes, and we go now to slide 2, which is, of course, the grave events that took place in Istanbul, shown on the lower left. And there's also some news about the Egypt Air Flight 804.
Well, first of all, John, the Istanbul airport terrorist attack involved at least 3 terrorists that we know of. They have arrested a bunch of others who may have been involved in it. There were more than 40 people killed, more than 230 injured when 3 explosive devices were set off by the terrorists at the airport. And
appear to be from the southern part of Russia.
They did take people into custody. There is surveillance video which shows the 3 men believed to be the terrorists as they were entering the airport area. This has shaken up security people nationwide in the U.S. With the holiday weekend coming up, travel being very heavy. We can expect to see additional security measures, and we can expect to see a stepped-up war against ISIS and other terrorists as a result of this. We've now seen a whole series of these things. The other major international air story which is unfolding is that they have read out the flight data recorder from Egypt Air Flight 804, which went down in the Mediterranean, and it does appear that there was a fire on board. Detectors in 2 areas of the aircraft detected smoke, detected heat, and that combined with some evidence which has been seen on the wreckage, on the underwater pieces of wreckage, showing some sooting, which is the result of a fire burning, indicate that right now this is pointing away from terror and toward a mechanical problem, possibly an electrical problem, causing an electrical fire on board.
It's a very key issue for Egypt Air.
As we speak, they are trying to read out the cockpit voice recorder, which may give even more information and a better clue as to what the flight crew might have been saying to each other regarding the situation which was unfolding.
All right. How long do you think it will be before that comes out? In July?
The flight recorder was damaged. They had to do quite a bit of repair work to the flight data recorder to get the information that they just have retrieved. They are working to try to make the cockpit voice recorder readable so they can play back what was being said. Assuming that happens, it may be another week, perhaps another 2 weeks, but we'll have a pretty good picture. But what this does seem to show is that Donald Trump was absolutely, positively wrong, at least based on what we know now, when he said that anyone who thinks this wasn't a terrorist bomb doesn't know anything about anything.
Right. We recall that shoot from the lip pronouncement.
And there was some more shooting from the lip if we go into our Clinton clock and Trump moment business for the week. We have the presidential campaign continuing to heat up. We have Donald Trump trying to raise funds from very wealthy sources. We have him trying to keep delegates pledged to him in line so that when the Republican convention rolls around in a couple of weeks, they might actually allow him to win the Republican nomination on the first ballot.
Maybe he will filibuster for all 4 days.
Maybe.
If no one decides to speak on his behalf, that would be interesting, to say the least.
Does he understand what a filibuster is?
He's been doing it for how long? He's indefatigable. He never stops talking.
We had Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail with Elizabeth Warren this week, amid speculation that Elizabeth Warren just might be her pick for vice presidential candidate. However, there are others out there
our guest on
also
People to
being
Be
considered.
Heard had made some comments about that, which I had never thought of, and that was that maybe you should not put 2 women on 1 ticket.
Well, that's something that they have to figure out. Now, on the Republican side, interestingly, it seems that Chris Christie is emerging as a leading vice presidential pick for Donald Trump. Also, we see speculation arising just this morning, once again focusing on Newt Gingrich as a possible vice presidential pick for Donald Trump.
Well, strictly being devil's advocate, I feel that Newt would be a much better choice. Simply because I think Christie has a lot of baggage left over from the Port Authority problem. you know.
I would agree with that.
Well, if they do that though, then then it makes for a great short bumper sticker, which might read "Never Newt."
Well, be that as it may, it's going to be interesting as the month progresses, and of course, what happens in Cleveland.
Yes, we do have the Republican convention unfolding in Cleveland, followed by the Democratic convention in Philadelphia.
Yes, indeed. Now, moving along to the shocker of the week, and this happened Monday night when an entourage of representing the new owners of the Good Counsel property came into the Common Council special meeting Monday evening with a proposal for the Good Counsel property, which they now own, and this is what it looks like. Coming up.
Well, what they showed were some artist renderings of the possible development. To me, it looks a bit like a city within a city. You see, they have some high-rise apartment buildings there. They have.
If we can have that slide, please.
They have various facilities. They have a graduate student housing for the Pace Law School.
Yeah, that's a close-up rendering.
And they show that they're going to have approximately 400 apartments with 10% or about 40 of them to be affordable housing. Interestingly, the architectural style is stark modern, which really doesn't fit with the current look of that site. And interestingly,
and the parking is
they show some underground parking, but they also show a lot of above ground parking.
Yeah.
There will be various roads built throughout the project and plenty of above ground parking areas.
Right, and a lot of street parking is proposed.
Right. They also show an assisted living facility going in there, which would be run by Sunrise Assisted Living. They are a major operator of assisted living facilities, and they would have facilities there for what they list as memory impaired people. These would be Alzheimer's or dementia patients, from my understanding.
Right. And,
how many acres is that site? Do you know?
Off the top, 16. I don't know.
I think it's 16.
I thought it was a little more than that, but it's right on North Broadway.
Yeah, if we go
it's
back
just
to the cover shot.
Before you really hit the downtown area. So one of the questions that the council is going to have to address is, as proposed, what does this do in the way of traffic?
I know,
and
the
congestion?
T word comes up on this project.
If you're going to have a major apartment complex going in there,
emptying out in the morning,
when do people leave the apartments in the morning rush hour? So you're going to have many hundreds of cars dumped onto North Broadway.
And if you've been into White Plains at rush hour to try and get into the center of White Plains, you know that Westchester Avenue is backed up.
Well, that's Westchester Avenue. Here we're talking
Northbound.
About Broadway trying to get to 287 perhaps.
North Broadway. And
in the evening, same thing. When people come home from work, these cars have to get back into the
What's
the property.
The total number of units they're talking about?
404, 130, and 66.
So if you add up the assisted living, the Pace dormitory, and the apartments, you've got a sizable number of people coming in there with a large number of motor vehicles. They do not propose any retail for this site.
No. But that has not been formally presented. Mayor Rhodes said this is all early days yet, but this nonetheless, it's a big project, and it puts in even more residents.
Typically, Jim, in something like this, first proposal, there's pressure, or we should expect to see some pressure to try to get the developer to reduce the size of this. Is that pretty routine?
It's not necessarily routine, but it's not it's not uncommon.
Not uncommon. It's a 10-story building, so they need a zoning change, and that will be part of the proposal.
Well, and that guarantees that there will be public hearings
Yes.
on this.
Yes,
So-
we'll try and keep it posted as to when this is going to happen. Now, also on Monday evening, some of the commissioners came in and discussed capital projects, and one that was very interesting was that the parking commissioner is proposing, and the council is going to approve it, putting in smart card meters, and this is what the meters look like. They take
That's the inset in
Yes,
the lower
right.
the
Yes,
lower left
right.
portion is the new meter as being
and
proposed.
that is a New York City version. You slide the
You can slide your
card in
credit
that
card
slot,
through there.
and what you do is you put a certain amount of money on the card, and Greenwich also has this system, and you say it's like works like a cash key, but it deducts automatically from the meter.
So they're replacing the cash key
Yes.
with a cash card.
That's right, a smart
Same
card.
deal though. You have to, as with the cash key, you have to give them money in advance to load it up, and then you draw down
Somebody
from this.
said it's only going to be, you can only park for $1. You're not going to be able to do
Yes,
50.
yes. Mr. Larson, the commissioner, said that the minimum time is $1 because it doesn't pay for them for the
To do a
transaction.
transaction.
That's right, for that.
So this is an outside company that
That's
actually would be doing the processing of the transactions here.
That's not clear. I haven't seen the contract.
Suppose you just have to run into City Hall to pay your taxes for only 15 minutes or
Bring your
10 minutes or
quarters.
something.
You
You still will be able to pay a quarter for a fraction of an hour. Is that?
Well, the details we're
intent?
not. We are going to filter out gradually.
Well, I think that's one detail that someone needs to ask about. Does that mean that when you park in White Plains from now on, the least you can pay is $1 for an hour, or will you still be able to buy what you really need by using quarters?
The smart card, you've already invested in the smart card. You're going to use the smart card. It doesn't make sense to use your change.
So why would you want to use a smart card, which is going to make you pay $1 for an hour, when you're only going to be at a meter space for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that
It's a
kind of
money-making
silly?
scheme.
Well, not if you're the one who has to buy the smart card.
But it lets you do more because you can enter how many hours you want.
Yeah, but I only want to stay here for 10 minutes, and I don't want to pay more than a quarter. Why would I use a smart card that's going to take $1?
I didn't
for 10
propose
minutes.
this. I didn't propose this. It's just something that has to be explained more to the public. Now, in other capital projects which will affect you, if we can go to the capital project slide. There we go. The DPW, Dick Hart on the left, facing us, was talking about a real wonderful project. And that is they're contracting with a contractor who repaves streets all in one operation. They don't have to mill and cart it away. They heat up the asphalt on an existing street and make it all liquid and recycle.
This is a technology which has been in use for a long time now, and it's
Now
very
we're trying it.
efficient. And on a large highway project, it allows them to resurface very quickly because it
Which
takes
would be
the old
nice.
stuff, smushes it up, and makes a new surface out of the old
It's a
stuff.
great step forward. If we go back to the slide again, then we're going to buy a new hook and ladder truck for about $2 million. And we're also going, on the right, Damon Amadio, the
Building commissioner.
building commissioner, is revising sign guidelines, which means you can no longer put signs above street level on the buildings in the downtown. So that is something that is being considered. And
No longer put signs above street level.
that's right. Say you've got a 3 or 4 story building. People have sometimes put signs on above it, but this is what the crux of the new regulation.
Okay.
Okay, and moving, and also what came up was that the library project is now moving ahead on the library's first floor, and several members of the Common Council, Beth Smeda, Dennis Cronian, and Milagros Lacuna, wanted to have clarification on where exactly the cable TV station, which is broadcasting to now, will go in the new library.
Yes, they've decided to move the cable TV operation from its own current professional studio into a place in the library, and
the new studios will be more professional, maybe. Right?
Well,
exactly.
That's not what I understand,
yeah.
but
well, we'll see. We don't know, and
but
they
in
wanted
any,
to
in
find
any
out.
event, that's not part of the first phase of this. If I understand this correctly, Jim, it really involves putting in a cafe and redoing some of the main floor area.
They haven't. I mean, they've talked about the cable station, but it's not really.
It's not part of what they're doing up front here.
But they are going to talk about it, I guess. Now, sales tax. I want to run this slide, which we didn't get to last week, but it points out that at the end of May, we were down 10.4%, and now we need about $5 million in June sales tax to meet our budget. So. This is some figures we're going to be looking at in July. They will come out approximately July 19th, and maybe we can get that we only got 4.2 million in June of last year. So hopefully the summation that the state gives us will make us hit our number and avoid budget cuts going forward. Now, another thing that in your neck of the woods, Jim, Harrison is examining putting apartments in two very long vacant properties out on Corporate Park Drive, about 420 apartments. This was being considered by Harrison. Now, this adds
the reason it's of interest to me anyway is that, as you recall, the White Plains changed the zoning over there to allow for mixed use on Westchester Avenue. So now Harrison is starting to move away a little bit from the corporate park structure over there and allow some apartments to go in.
This is the first project that's really been of this nature.
Does it really open up the area for White Plains development to start?
It's going to generate traffic. And I don't know whether it's good or not, but the problem is that if you concentrate development in downtown areas where you have facilities for public transportation, if you start building apartment buildings all along the expressway there, it's not necessarily going to work well for public transportation.
How do people get from there to where they have to do things other than a car?
Unless they put in some, are they going to put some shopping centers out there? They really, really have to think about.
It sounds like some long-range planning is really needed, not just a quick zoning change.
This is like the quick fix.
Yeah.
That is a quick fix. And now, speaking of quick fixes, if we go to slide 14, please, the Connors-Freed shot. Well, at the school board meeting Monday night, Timothy Connors on the left was hired on a per-day basis for July and August to continue to operate, while Dr. Paul Freed on the right is still recovering from an illness. At least we assume he's recovering.
We had been told that a surgery, the nature of the surgery was not disclosed, so Connors is in there. being paid on a per diem basis as needed.
Yes.
There were two mishaps worth noting this week.
Quickly.
A tugboat sunk in the Hudson River by the construction site for the new Tappan Zee Bridge. They're trying to figure out exactly why it sunk. There was no one hurt in that. A contractor working on taxiway lights at the Westchester County Airport was electrocuted. He was from Croton on Hudson, 61 years old, identified as Joseph Pinkfor, an electrician.
And now let's take a look at what may be happening in the next few months here that we should take consciousness of. First of all, new taxi cab meters are supposedly going into effect as of July 1st. Today, we don't know whether or not everybody's been equipped, but they're coming. The taxi meters will increase your fare significantly.
So when you get into a cab now in White Plains, no more negotiation, you just read the meter, right?
That's right. He just puts it down, and it also means that we don't know exactly how sharing a cab works out in that situation.
We also don't know how the fastening situation is working out, whether the city is actually going to file an appeal. Bernice Spreckman, the Westchester County legislator from Yonkers, resigned. We're going to have a special election on that.
August 9th, I believe.
We were told the red light cameras are coming to White Plains. They may come up with a contract with a vendor for that.
All right.
Don't know why they want to do it, but they're going to do it.
And then we're going to get supposedly more detail on what we could do at the train station.
We talked about the cable TV station already. We have to look for a candidate for mayor from the Republicans. We haven't seen much of any Republican Party activity in White Plains.
No Republican reaction on city issues at all.
As they continue making progress building the new Tappan Zee Bridge, we still hear nothing about the bus rapid transit system, do we?
The task force has got to get back on task, don't we?
And then we have the old business of how much you're going to charge for parking in White Plains. Is it going to be too expensive for people to come in here and shop?
And revenue-producing projects. Could we have some, please?
Well, we have some. There's some building going on. They're still working on.
But they're 3-4 years away.
Well, they're working on the apartments down on Bank Street. That building seems to be going up fairly quickly.
They're also working on the apartments on Westmoreland Avenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's conversion of a warehouse.
But are those revenue producing?
They will be.
That's my point. How do they produce revenue?
They produce revenue because they go on the tax rolls and they attract people who come into town and spend money when they live here. Anyway, the sales tax budget cuts, that's all. We have to see where that's going to go. And then we have union negotiations coming up again.
Yeah, in fact, I just want to mention that the Teamsters settled with the city on Monday night, and the city approved the contract, and the Teamsters are getting 2%, 2%.
For 3 years.
For 3 years,
and then
through
they
18.
They also get a year retroactive raise.
Yes, they do. But that is part of that 3-year. And right now, and we also want to say, Pat Summitt died this week, the great coach of the University of Tennessee and a real pioneer in her own right. And she died of Alzheimer's disease. And we can learn about that on People to Be Heard on the City News, on the White Plains Week News website. John Bailey, Peter Katz, Jim Benerofe, good night.
White Plains Week has been a presentation of White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com, in cooperation with Channel 76. Comments may be emailed to WPCNR@AOL.com. The copyrighted print White Plains Cityscape by Leonard Weber is used courtesy of the White Plains Presbyterian Church. For information on its availability, you may contact the church at 761-8585. The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. For White Plains Week, this is Seth Benerofe speaking.